part of the screen is kind of hard to see there. It's in the Skype video. It's chopped off on the left side.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is the 5th Epical Revelation Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we are going to study Paper 71, The Development of State. Let me see if I can. Y'all bear with me for 1 second, and you'll see me on the screen. Let me see if I can bring this in a little closer. Can you see it a little better there? Oops.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm working on a table that's crooked, so.
Go a little more left.
A little more left. Okay, I'm losing. Let me see if I can put it up here and get it clean. Sorry, y'all at home waiting on me. Is that a little better there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Alright, let's go with that. Okay, let me get to my seat here. Alright, let me turn on my computer here. I'm having Windows problems like crazy, rebooting and stuff. Okay, let's see if I can get this to go forward. I have to move things around. My wife rearranged, so.
Darn it.
Problem. Okay. Let me see if I can move to the side here or something. Maybe y'all can see the thing.
Yeah, it's coming in very well.
Okay.
That's you in your shadow.
Yeah, I know.
I'll make the first one tomorrow.
I can't get this computer. Let's just go with this one. I'll try to mess with it as I can. All right. Let's have a little prayer and we'll get started. Dear, would you like to pray for us?
Dearest Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity and bringing us together tonight to search and gain a new insight into the Urantia book and the attention of each one of the papers that we read. Help us to understand it and to ponder it and to make it part of our being so that we may be able to help others to understand it. We thank you for this day, this beautiful day. We thank you for life and thank you for our gathering. It is in your name, Jesus, always we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. This is paper 71. Millie, would you like to start reading for us tonight?
I can do that. Paper 71, Development of the State. The state is a useful evolution of civilization. It represents society's net gain from the ravages and sufferings of war. Even statecraft is merely an accumulated technique for adjusting the competitive contest of force between the struggling tribes and nations.
Okay, notice here they say the competitive contest of force. In other words, who has the most muscle, right? And they're talking about different countries, different tribes, different people, really, on all this. So, and the state is an evolution, but it's not an inevitability. We'll find that out a little bit later tonight. So, let me see if I can.
The next paragraph is good.
Yes.
This is just a good paper.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Alec, would you like to take the next paragraph?
Sure. The modern state is the institution which survived in a long struggle for group power. Superior power eventually prevailed, and it produced a creature of fact, the state, together with the moral myth of the absolute obligation of the citizen to live and die for the state. But the state was not of divine genesis. It was not even produced by volitionally intelligent human action. It is purely an evolutionary institution and was wholly automatic in origin.
Okay, there's several things in this paragraph that's very interesting. First of all, very first paragraph, it talks about how the state survived from a long struggle for group power, right? So a lot of individuals together trying to control land and large pieces of the land of the planet, right? And those who were the best at doing that, going to war and conquering other beings, basically created the concept of the state, and they call it a moral myth, because the state would like you to believe that it's your obligation to live and die for the state, and that's not true. It's not true at all. The reason we're here to live and die is for our own experience and preparing us for the mansion worlds, right? And so this obligation to the state really should not exist. It should be totally voluntary, and it's just an evolutionary institution. It just came about on its own. It really was not, believe it or not, necessary. Number one. Rodney, would you take this one, please?
Sure. Number one, the embryonic state. The state is a territorial, social, regulative organization, and the strongest, mostly Christian, and enduring state is composed of a single nation whose people have a common language, mores, and institutions.
Okay, so believe it or not, that is the goal, is to have a common language, basically morals, right, and institutions, so that the whole planet is on the same page, basically, right? And people either agree with us or disagree with it. It's not for us to put our opinions upon them. But eventually this will happen. I mean, there's no way it's not going to, sooner or later. The question is how quickly. Y'all excuse me. I'm trying to get this set up so I can read it without pricking my neck on you. All right, Diane, would you take the next one here?
The early states were small and were all the result of conquest. They did not originate in voluntary associations. Many were founded by conquering nomads who would swoop down on peaceful herders or settled agriculturists to overpower and enslave them. Such states resulting from conquest were perforce stratified, classes were inevitable, and class struggles have ever been selective.
Okay, so it was the conquering warlike people that basically started the state, is what they're saying, right? And they overpowered and enslaved them. What's a good example of that? Genghis Khan, right? Rome did this. Rome became, a huge nation by conquering other peoples, right? They didn't want to be conquered, but they did it anyway. The northern tribes of the American Red Men never attained real statehood. They never progressed beyond a loose confederation of tribes, a very primitive form of state. Their nearest approach was the Iroquois Federation. Iroquois Federation, but this group of 6 nations never quite functioned as a state and failed to survive because of the absence of certain essentials to modern national life, such as, there's lots of lists in this paper tonight, so we're going to go through. Millie, would you take the first 8 here?
Yes. Number one, acquirement and inheritance of private property. Number two, cities plus agriculture and industry. Number three, helpful domestic animals. Number four, practical family organization. These red men clung to the mother family and nephew inheritance. Number five, definite territory. Number six, a strong executive head. Number seven, enslavement of captives. They either adopted or massacred them. Road. 8, decisive conquest. I guess massacring them is a decisive conquest.
Yeah, that'll take care of it, I think.
No questions there.
All right.
These are certain essentials to the modern national life.
That's right, certain essentially. We had to go through this to get to where we are, basically.
And these are those that were absent from the North American tribes.
That's right. They were absent from the North American tribes because the Indians' way of life was totally different. Now, what changed that? That they eventually came in contact with the red man, right? I mean, the white.
I guess because they came in contact with us.
Yeah, they came in contact with the white man, and then
Hello?
we forced our ways of life upon them. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get my PC straightened out here so I can read this time.
Well, when you get quiet, I worry. My speakers are funky.
Yeah.
They haven't been working for a couple of days. Well, they were not working, and I was using headphones, and then the headphones got too loud, and I unplugged them, and sure enough, the speakers were working. Well, then the speakers quit working, and I plugged in the headphones wouldn't work either. But later this afternoon, I talked to them, and I said, you got to work, and I plugged them in, and they work. They're very, very loud, and I can't turn them down, but they work. And I said, okay, I'm on Skype tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had a nightmare with Windows Update this week. I had 2 computers, and both of them took 2 solid days, 24 hours each, to update, which is inexcusable. And from what I understand, talking to other people that I know, other individuals are experiencing the same thing. So, it's just ridiculous to have to go that long.
Well, I thought I was going to have to bring the laptop into this room and listen to you on the laptop and talk to you on this one, because one has speakers that work and one that has a voice that works, a microphone that works, and not the other.
Not the other.
But I'm going to take that laptop to the Geek Squad. I'm tired of it. It's just more than I can deal with.
Okay, here we go. Alec, would you like to take the first date on these? The successful Roman state.
Okay. The successful Roman state was based on one.
Wait, Gordon. Roger, you need to advance the phone.
I'm sorry.
You went too far.
Oh, did I? Okay, that doesn't surprise me. Couple things. Yeah, I'm trying to do this.
There's a little paragraph that Alex needs to read. The red men were too democratic.
Good, actually.
Hang on. I may have to speak back, and I won't be able to see you because I can't see this to advance it. I don't know.
It's a wrong position for you.
Yes, I'm trying to work from behind. Okay, is this the one we should do?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
The red men were too democratic. They had a good government, but it failed. Eventually, they would have evolved a state had they not prematurely encountered the more advanced civilization of the white man, who was pursuing the governmental methods of the Greeks and the Romans.
There you go. That's what messed it up, right? All right. I think Roger's after him. Rodney, would you take this one?
No problem. The successful Roman state was based on 1. The father family, 2. Agriculture and the domestication of animals, 3. Condensation of population, cities, 4. Primitive property and land.
No, private property.
Private, excuse me. I'm thinking primitive names.
Yeah.
5. Slavery, classes of citizenship. 6. Conquest and reorganization of free and backward people. 7. Definite territory with roads. 8. Personal and strong rulers.
All right. Oh, sorry, y'all. I'm having Windows issues again here. Here we go. This is Romans conquering everyone in front of them.
The great weakness in Roman civilization and a factor in the ultimate collapse of the empire was a supposed liberal and advanced provision for the emancipation of the boy at 21 and the unconditional release of the girl so that she was at liberty to marry a man of her own choosing or to go abroad in the land to become immoral. The harm to society consisted not in these reforms themselves, but rather in the sudden and extensive manner of their adoption. The collapse of Rome indicates what may be expected when a state undergoes too rapid extension associated with internal degeneration.
Okay, it's important to understand here, it wasn't just the freedom for these young boys and women that they were given. It was the immoral conduct that was going on in the state of Rome during that period of time. And because of that immoral conduct, then when they set these young people free, they just went wild. And it caused the degeneration of the state itself. Okay, where other forms of religion that kind of kept tabs on their young people until they got into young adulthood had a better system. Okay, and that's why this happened. The embryonic state was made possible by the decline of the blood bond in favor of the territorial and such tribal federations were usually firmly cemented by conquest, while a sovereignty that transcended all minor struggles and group differences is the characteristic of the true state. Still, many classes and castes persist in the latter state organizations as remnants of the clans and tribes of former days. These later and larger territorial states had long and bitter struggle with these smaller, consequentious clan groups. The tribal government proving a valuable transition from the family to state authority. During later times, many clans grew out of the trades and other industrial associations. Now, think about the times of Jesus, okay? Rome was at its peak, right? And this is exactly what they're talking about. Because of the Jews, they had their own little forms of government per territory and per clan or per tribe. It made it very difficult for Rome to govern them. So they had to almost get permission from those in power, which at that time was the Sanhedrin, right? And that's what they're talking about here. Because of this sovereignty issue, because the clans and the people would not adhere to what Rome wanted to do, there was constant conflict. And that's basically what was going on. And that's what Jesus got right in the middle of when he was incarnated on this planet, right? And that is part of the problem of his crucifixion, because Rome was caught in the middle between the Sanhedrin and the local politics, right? So it made quite a mess. All right. Millie, will you take the next one, please?
Turn the mic on. Failure of state integration results in retrogression to pre-state conditions of governmental techniques, such as the feudalism of European Middle Ages. During these dark ages, the territorial state collapsed, and there was a reversion to the small castle groups, reappearance of the clan, and the tribe stages of development. Similar semi-states even now exist in Asia and Africa, but not all of them are evolutionary reversions. Many of the embryonic nucleuses of states of the future. Many are the embryonic nucleuses of states of the future. That's interesting.
Yeah, these are states that will develop. Now you're going to have to go on.
Councilman.
You got a cat keeps right walking in front of my light. All right. All right, Alec, would you take the next one, please? The first five.
Sure. 2. The evolution of representative government. Democracy, while an ideal, is a product of civilization, not of evolution. Go slowly, select carefully, for the dangers of democracy are 1. Glorification of mediocrity. 2. Choice of base and ignorant rulers.
Well, we do that a lot, don't we?
Oh.
3. Failure to recognize the basic facts of social evolution. 4. Danger of universal suffrage in the hands of uneducated and indolent majorities. 5. Slavery to public opinion. The majority is not always right.
All right, this is the basic errors of democracy. Even though democracy is the best form of government, we have to suffer through these things to get to a better form of democracy. And we're going to learn in the next paper, Government on a Neighboring Planet, how they dealt with these things too. Okay, because if you look at our politicians, we definitely have glorification of mediocrity, haven't we? We have base and ignorant rulers. That happens all the time. Sometimes our choices are pathetic, to be honest. And failure to recognize basic facts of social evolution. This is a real problem in America today. Okay, and the other thing is universal suffrage in the hands of uneducated and indolent majorities. Now, why is this? It's because we're not educating our young people about the best forms of democracy and how to choose qualified rulers and representation for each of us in our politics, right? And of course, slavery to public opinion, majority is not always right. We all know that.
I love that cat's fur, but it is a distraction. Can you move the cat away from the microphone?
Yeah, he sounds like a quail.
Yeah, that was a point.
All right. And having that microphone. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Sure. Public opinion, common opinion, has always delayed society. Nevertheless, it is valuable, for while retarding social evolution, it does preserve civilization. Education of public opinion is the only safe and true method of accelerating civilization. Force is only a temporary expedient, and cultural growth will increasingly accelerate as bullets give way to ballots. Public opinion, the mores, is the basic and elemental energy in social evolution and state development. But to be of state value, it must be not violent in expression.
Nonviolent and expression. That's the only way to make public change without forcing things on individuals. You notice it says here, bullets give way to ballots. And what do we have now? We have bullets trying to control everything, right? Through war. And that eventually will go away, and then public opinion will be controlled by what's best for society, right? Alright. Be nice if it was that way today, but it's not.
The measure of the advance of society is directly determined by the degree to which public opinion can control personal behavior and state regulation through nonviolent expression. The really civilized government had arrived when public opinion was clothed with the powers of personal franchise. Popular elections may not always decide things rightly, but they represent the right way even to do a wrong thing. Evolution does not at once produce superlative perfection, but rather comparative and advancing practical adjustment.
Okay, so when you go to the polls, realize that it's not the best way, it's not going to change everything overnight, but it is the best way to go about doing it, right? All right, so your opinion counts, and it's important for you to go vote. All right, there are 10 steps or stages to the evolution of practical and official form of representative government, and these are: 1. Freedom of the person. Slavery, self-serfdom, and all forms of human bondage must disappear. And that is happening. The difference is, though, today we're bonded to what? Our economy. Okay? We're bonded to things. We're slaves to our things instead of being totally free from what we need. All right? Billy, could you take the next one, please?
Turn the mic on. 2. Freedom of the mind. Unless a free people are educated, taught to think intelligently and plan wisely, freedom usually does more harm than good.
That's interesting, isn't it? You wouldn't think that, but sometimes it does. Alec, would you take the next one?
3. The reign of law. Liberty can be enjoyed only when the will and whims of human rulers are replaced by legislative enactments in accordance with accepted fundamental law.
Well, that's what we need today, terribly. Rodney, would you take the next one?
All right, Roger, you're really out of focus.
The screen is, or I am?
Your video.
Really?
You got out of focus.
Okay.
It's not good.
Let me see if I can straighten it out. Get over there. Cameras, look up.
No, just now.
All right,
Really?
let me see if I can get it to focus on your hand. Can you look?
Yes.
There you go.
That work?
Okay, 4. Freedom of speech. Representative government is uncapable without freedom of all forms of expression for human aspirations and opinions.
That's what America is known for, right?
5. Security of property. No government can long endure if it fails to provide for the right to enjoy personal property in some form. Man craves the right to use, control, bestow, sell, lease, and bequeath his personal property.
Okay. So things can't be owned by everybody. We need to have our own personal property, right? That's why communism doesn't work. Come on. Right of petition. Representative government assumes the right of citizens to be heard. The privilege of petition is inherent in free citizenship. Very important.
The right to rule. It is not enough to be heard. The power of petition must progress to the actual management of the government.
We have to be able to rule ourselves. Right? Alec, would you take the next one?
8. Universal suffrage. representative government presupposes an intelligent, efficient, and universal electorate. The character of such a government will ever be determined by the character and caliber of those who compose it. As civilization progresses, suffrage, while remaining universal for both sexes, will be effectively modified, regrouped, and otherwise differentiated.
Okay, now this is very important point here. To talk about representative government, which is what we have, presupposes an intelligent, efficient, universal electorate. In other words, it's your responsibility, not a choice, it's a responsibility to find out who it is you're putting in government positions, what their positions are, and doing it efficiently and intelligently, not because they look good or you like the way they wear their hair or they got a nice tie, you know, not things like that. They should be good for the government itself, and that's where we fall short in the United States. Many people have no idea when they go to vote what these people stand for or they're voting for. All right. Rodney.
Roger, I find it interesting for reading this right now.
I
Before
know.
the-
I was thinking that
Coincides with
too.
it, yeah.
You know, what's even funnier, Rodney, is next time we're going to have government on a neighboring planet, and that's going to be right before the election. Yeah. It's interesting.
Read number 9. It's right now.
Yeah.
Trying to control the public service. No civil government. I'm really happy. And that one too.
Can you see who he's echoing through? Anybody flashing?
Actually,
Just him,
Just him?
yeah.
that's weird.
It is weird.
Where if I speak microphone, the speaker down. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Number 9, control of public servants. No civil government will be serviceable and effective unless the citizenry possesses and use wise techniques of guiding and controlling office holders and public servants.
Okay, that's where our problem comes in, is we can't control our public servants. You know, the corruption in government today is really pathetic. It's sad. You know, it really is. People are misusing their trust when they get in an office and use it for personal gain. I don't care what position it is. You know, that's not the concept of a public servant. You don't become a public servant to become rich. And that's what,
Roger,
yeah.
I read in our government right now, there are over 300 millionaires as our public servants.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the people that probably should not be public servants, are the millionaires, really. Because it takes an average person to help make decisions for average people, right? Not someone that's got everything and has no wants or needs, right? Yeah, that's my opinion, whatever that's worth. All right.
10, intelligent and trained representation. The survival of democracy is dependent on successful representative government, and that is conditioned upon the practice of electing to public offices only those individuals who are technically trained, intellectually competent, socially loyal, and morally fit. Only by such provisions can government of the people, by the people, and for the people be preserved.
Can you find any of those characters in our public officials? Probably pretty rare.
It's fine. It's fine.
Very few. I can think of a couple, but it's very few. Right? This is Pericles, died before him. He was famous for his public speech, which enabled him to rule Athens at the height of her empire, with a military helmet pushed back on his head. Pericles is the model of a citizen soldier. This idealistic image represents him as fair of face and sound of heart. So this is someone in the past in Athens believed in and was excellent ruler. He was very, very well liked. Maya? The ideals of statehood. The political or administrative form of a government is of little consequence provided it affords the essentials of civil progress, liberty, security, education, and social coordination. It is not a state, it is not what a state, but what it does that determines the course of social evolution. After all, no state can translate the moral values of its citizenry as exemplified in their chosen leaders. Ignorance and selfishness will ensure the downfall of even the highest type of government. Who's a perfect example of that? Lucifer, Caligastia, right? They ruled with selfishness of their heart, right? And of course it failed. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Much as it is to the regretted national egotism has been essential to social survival. The chosen people doctrine has been a prime factor in tribal building and nation building right on down to modern times. But no state can attain everlastingly inimical of human progress. And intolerance is best combined.
Combated.
But I keep hearing the echo. Is best combated by the coordination of science, commerce, play, and religion.
There you go. Intolerance, right? And religion's in there too. That's what's interesting.
When you misspeak, someone comes in and tells you what you should have said, and I keep hearing my echo, thinking I've said something wrong.
Oh.
So I keep hesitating to go forth.
All right. Alec, would you take the next with the three below it?
The ideal state functions under the impulse of three mighty and coordinated drives. One, love, loyalty derived from the realization of human brotherhood. 2, intelligent patriotism based on wise ideals. 3, cosmic insight interpreted in terms of planetary facts, needs, and goals.
These are three interesting things. The first one, they talk about love, loyalty. This is where Jesus used to talk about loving your brother, right? That's number one, is to love your brother as yourself. You know. The other thing is intelligent patriotism based on wise ideals. In other words, patriotism is good if your ideals are in place. If you have wrong ideals, then patriotism can be bad, right? It can be very destructive. And it's interesting, the third thing they quote here is cosmic insight. And that's how this fits into the overall concept of we're all part of the same universe, right? Notice it says interpreted in terms of planetary facts, needs, and goals. So it's how our planet fits into the cosmos as a whole, right? So as we develop love and intelligent patriotism, we can eventually develop cosmic insight, which will help us rule this planet along with other planets that are in this cosmos, right? The way they should be, which is very interesting. Okay, those three together, I thought. All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
The laws of the state were few in number, and they had passed out with negativistic taboo age into the era of the positive progress of individual liberty consequent upon enhanced self-control. The exalted state not only compels its citizens to work, but also entices them into profitable and uplifting utilization of the increasing leisure, which results in full liberation by the advancing machinery. Leisure must produce as well as consume.
In other words, when we get more leisure, and you go into retirement, you still need to do things, right? You still need to produce something. You don't get to your retiring age or get to your leisuristic age and sit around and do nothing. You know, that would be really stupid, you know, because then that's when you start to die, right? When you become idle. But if you keep busy and do things that benefits your family and your home and society in general, then you're on the right track, right?
Roger,
Yeah.
in the advancing machine age, and you know, more things are going to be automated
Yeah.
and get more leisure, and I think that's what they're talking about. To
It
keep
is.
people busy, even though you have machines doing the work for you.
Yeah, that's right. As more and more machines come along and make our life less of a toil, or frees us up to not be standing on an assembly line putting parts together and things like that, you know. As that happens, it frees up people to do other things that are much more productive, right? All right. Let's see.
No society has progressed very far when it permits idleness or tolerates poverty, but poverty and dependence can never be eliminated if the defective and degenerate stocks are freely supported and permitted to reproduce without restraint.
That's a real issue, right? Some types of
In this paper, that's everything I have highlighted.
yeah. Yeah, it's not good to allow everyone to just reproduce like rabbits and create more and more defective and degenerate people, right? That won't work, that do not add to society and that sort of thing. And that's part of what Adam and Eve were supposed to have done, right? You know the Adam and Eve papers are coming up in a couple papers here, and we're going to talk a lot about this sort of thing in the Adam and Eve papers. So I think it's only about 2 papers a day. But we're going to revisit this. A moral society should aim to preserve the self-respect of its citizenry and afford every normal individual adequate opportunity for self-realization. Such a plan of social achievement would yield a cultural society of the highest order. Social evolution should be encouraged by governmental supervision which exercises a minimum of regulative control. That state is best which coordinates most while governing the least. We've heard that a lot, haven't we? Okay, not more government, not big government, smaller government, and less government, right?
No.
That's what we need.
But notice it says coordinates.
Coordinates. Yeah.
It's not just leave you alone to do what you want.
No.
The government helps coordinate what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like we have to have a police force not only for crime, but a police force for idleness, don't we? If you think about it.
So.
You know, because if people are all allowed to sit around and do nothing and the government pays for everything for them, then they're not productive, are they? They're not adding to the planet, they're not adding to society. Okay? And I think it was a quote somewhere else in the paper. It says, if you do not eat, or if you do not work, you do not eat. You know? And that's a good policy. All right?
The ideals of statehood must be attained by evolution, by the slow growth of civic consciousness, the recognition of the obligation and privilege of social service. At first, men assume the burdens of government as a duty following the end of the administration of political spoilsmen, but later on they seek such ministry as a privilege, as the greatest honor. The status of any level of civilization is faithfully portrayed by the caliber of its citizens who volunteer to accept the responsibility of statehood.
What are they saying here? They're saying those in government positions should be there because they have a need to fulfill their social service, not to get rich, right? You don't go in government to become a millionaire. That's not what it should be. You should be going into government because you feel the responsibility of your social service to mankind. That's the number one thing they were talking about, loving your brother, right? Being there because you love your brother and you want to make the planet better, right? This should be taught to the Congress and the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
You know, that's who they should be talking to here. And the presidents, right?
And children.
And the children, that's right. All right. Alec, would you take the next one, please?
In a real commonwealth, the business of governing cities and provinces is conducted by experts and is managed just as are all other forms of economic and commercial associations of people.
Notice here it says a real commonwealth, right? That's what you're talking about. Those who are there for the benefit of all. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
In advanced state, political service is esteemed as the highest devotion of the citizenry. The greatest ambition of the wisest and noblest of citizens is to gain civil recognition, to be elected or appointed to some position of governmental trust, and such governments confer the highest honors of recognition for service upon their civil and social servants. Honors are next bestowed in order named upon philosophers, educators, scientists, industrialists, and materialists, or military. Parents are duly rewarded by the excellency of their children, and purely religious leaders, being ambassadors of a spiritual kingdom, receive their real rewards in another world.
Here we go. Our rewards are in heaven, as we said. Mentioned.
For progressive civilization, economic, society, and government must evolve if they are to remain. Static conditions on an evolutionary world are indicative of decay. Only those institutions which move forward with the evolutionary stream persist.
Alec, this is the long one.
It's your turn.
No, it's mine. It's mine. I'm sorry. It is mine, isn't it? I'm trying to skip over everybody. I get the long one. Okay. The progressive program of an expanding civilization embraces 1. Preservation of individual liberties. That's very important. 2. Protection of the home. 3. Promotion of economic security. 4. Prevention of disease. 5. Compulsory education. 6. Compulsory employment. 7. Profitable utilization of leisure. 8. Care of the unfortunate. 9. Race improvement. 10. Promotion of science and art. 11. Promotion of philosophy and wisdom. And 12. Augmentation of cosmic insight, spirituality. Okay, this should be read over and over and over to the politicians in Congress and the House of Representatives too. This is what it's about, right? Billy, I think you're next.
Yes. I'm still back on the paragraph that Rodney wrote. Honors are next bestowed in the order named upon philosophers, educators. When's the last time you met a philosopher?
It's been a while. I've known a few though. I have known in my education in the past, you know.
In the philosophy department.
In the philosophy department. No, I've known some philosophers. You know, and many of y'all know I have like 3 doctorates, so I've met lots of instructors through the years. But I've met some religionists that are philosophers, some ministers that are philosophers, besides people that just teach philosophy.
This says number 11 is promotion of philosophy-wisdom.
Wisdom,
So
that's what philosophy.
Yes, wisdom.
Yeah, that's what philosophy is about. You know?
That's right. That's what this book is about.
The seeking of wisdom, right?
Yes.
The seeking
Perfect.
of wisdom. Yeah, and that's an ongoing thing. You don't actually ever get there, do you? It's an ongoing process. you become wiser and wiser only through experience over time, and that wisdom, you don't get to a point where you say, oh, I'm there, I'm wise.
Doesn't happen like that.
No,
As
unfortunately.
this progress in the arts of civilization leads directly to the realization of the highest human and divine goals of martial endeavor, the social achievement of the brotherhood of man, and the personal status of God consciousness, which becomes revealed in the supreme desire of every individual to do the will of the Father in heaven.
That's what it's all about, right?
That's what it is,
That
and this
sums it up.
progresses. That's what it progresses towards.
That's
It's a
right.
long way off, but that's where we're going.
That's right. Alec, you're up next.
Is it this section?
The appearance
appearance.
of genuine.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. The appearance of genuine brotherhood signifies that a social order has arrived in which all men delight in bearing one another's burdens. They actually desire to practice the golden rule. But such an ideal society cannot be realized when either the weak or the wicked lie in wait to take unfair and unholy advantage of those who are chiefly actuated by devotion to the service of truth, beauty, and goodness. In such a situation, only one course is practical. The golden rulers may establish a progressive society in which they live according to their ideals while maintaining an adequate defense against their benighted fellows who might seek either to exploit their predilections or to destroy their advancing civilization.
There you go. You have to live by the golden rule, but what? You have to protect yourself from those who would take advantage of not only yourself, but those who cannot protect themselves. Right? So that's a big job.
I had a nice person come and take care of me the other day. As usual, I was wandering around absolutely lost in the parking lot looking for my car. And a man approached and offered to help me. And this has happened before without a good outcome, but this one happened to be a minister. And we wandered around and found my car, and he invited me to his church and so forth. So that was a good outcome. He was taking care of those who can't take care of themselves.
That's right. That's the way it should be.
It happens too often.
That's right. That's right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
All right. Idealism can never survive on an evolving planet if the idealists in each generation permit themselves to be exterminated by the baser order of humanity. And here is the great test of idealism. Can an advanced society maintain that military preparedness which renders it secure from all attack by its war-loving leader without yielding to the temptations to employ its military strength in offensive operations against other peoples for purposes of selfish gain or national aggrandizement.
Right.
National survival demands preparedness, and religious idealism alone can prevent the prostitution of preparedness into aggression. Only love, brotherhood, can prevent the strong from oppressing the weak.
This is one area I think the United States has done a very good job in trying to do. They really have. They have tried militarily to help protect those who are weak and not be aggressive to those who are strong, basically. You know. And this has always been the way of America in the past. Even during World War II, we got involved in World War II to help protect those who could not protect themselves, right? And we paid a great price for it. We really did. But I think our conscience as a nation requires this sometime for us to step in. And that's why I think the preparedness and the strongness of our military is very important in this country. That's why I felt like it was my responsibility to serve when I did. You know? So I sure don't like war, I can tell you that. Never have.
5. The evolution of competition. Competition is essential to social progress, but competition unregulated breeds violence. In current society, competition is slowly displacing war, and that it determines the individual's place in industry, as well as decreeing the survival of the industries themselves. Murder and war differ in their status before the wars, murder having been outlawed since the early days of society, while war has never yet been outlawed by mankind as a whole.
And it will be one day.
One day.
Yeah. The ideal state undertakes to regulate social conduct only enough to take violence out of individual competition and to prevent unfairness and personal initiative. Here's a great problem in statehood. How can you guarantee peace and quiet in industry, pay the taxes to support state power, and at the same time prevent taxation from handicapping industry and keep the state from becoming parasitical or tyrannical? And that's the issue we're dealing with today, right? We're being taxed to death.
Throughout the early ages of any world, competition is essential to progressive civilization. As the evolution of man progresses, cooperation becomes increasingly effective. In advanced civilizations, cooperation is more efficient than competition. Early man is stimulated by the competition. Early evolution is characterized by the survival of the biologically fit, but later civilizations are the better promoter of, by intelligent cooperation, understanding, fraternity, and spiritual brotherhood.
Cooperation. Alec, would you take the next one?
True competition in industry is exceedingly wasteful and highly ineffective. But no attempt to eliminate this economic lost motion should be countenanced if such adjustments entail even the slightest abrogation of any of the basic liberties of the individual.
Okay, so as long as this competition doesn't encroach on individual liberties, it's okay, right? That's what they're saying.
But the industry doesn't encroach on individual liberties.
Many times they do.
Not an individual, they encroach on groups.
Groups of individuals more than anything.
The people who are going to use the product.
That's right. That's right. And a good example of that would be whom? The oil industries. You know.
Oh yes, oh yes.
The price of oil fluctuates according to the whims of money, basically. You know. And that's a problem, has been a problem in the past, and it's going to continue to be a problem as long as the profit motive is the only reason for people making money. You know, so, anyway, I don't want to get on that bandwagon, that's been my mind. Who's next?
Oh,
I think
6.
Rod.
The profit motive.
Rodney?
Profit motivated economics is doomed unless profit motive can be augmented by service motive. Ruthless competition based on narrow-minded self-interest is ultimately destructive of even those things that it seeks to maintain. Exclusive and self-serving profit motivation is incompatible with Christian ideals, much more incompatible with the teachings of Jesus.
Well, that's pretty plain, isn't it? The purely profit motive is incompatible with the teachings of Jesus. Okay? What is compatible with the teachings of Jesus? The service motive, right?
Service. Service to others.
Service to others, that's correct.
In economics, profit motivation is to service motivation what fear is to love and religion. But the profit motive must not be suddenly destroyed or removed. It keeps many otherwise slothful mortals hard at work. It is not necessary, however, that this social energy arouser be forever selfish in its objectives.
There's some wisdom in this paper. The profit motive of economic activities is altogether base and wholly unworthy of an advanced order society. Nevertheless, it is an indispensable factor throughout the early phases of civilization. Profit motivation must not be taken away from men until they have firmly possessed themselves of superior types of non-profit motives for economic striving and social serving. The transcendence urges of superlative wisdom, intriguing brotherhood, and excellency of spiritual attainment. It's all in what our goals are, isn't it? Okay. Millie.
Yes, I'm still, the profit motive is what I'm still hung up on.
Yeah.
I mean, how much money does one person need?
Yeah, exactly.
When is enough enough?
Yeah.
No,
Enough is never enough.
With some people.
Yeah, that's the whole problem. Yeah.
Number 7, education. The enduring state is founded on culture, dominated by ideals, and motivated by service. The purpose of education should be acquirement of skill, pursuit of wisdom, realization of selfhood, and attainment of spiritual values. Amen.
I won't even comment on that. It's beautiful and that's what it said. Alec, would you take the next one, please?
In the ideal state, education continues throughout life, and philosophy sometimes becomes the chief pursuit of its citizens. The citizens of such a commonwealth pursue wisdom as an enhancement of insight into the significance of human relations, the meanings of reality, the nobility of values, the goals of living, and the glories of cosmic destiny. Urantians should get a... Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Go right on.
Yeah, I was...
Urantian...
What I was going to say...
Okay.
What I was going to say about this is, notice here they're talking about philosophy. What's philosophy? The pursuit of wisdom. And why do we do this? This prepares us for the mansion worlds, doesn't it? Okay. This is the stepping off place for the mansion worlds. That's what this is about. Okay. Go ahead and do another one if you'd like to, Alec. Feel free.
Urantians should get a vision of a new and higher cultural society. Education will jump to new levels of value with the passing of the purely profit-motivated system of economics. Education has too long been localistic, militaristic, ego-exalting, and success-seeking. It must eventually become worldwide, idealistic, self-realizing, and cosmic grasping.
We have to go from the local viewpoint to the what? The cosmic viewpoint. Right? That's what education should be about. That's what they're talking about here. Realizing our cosmic place and placing value on our cosmic place, right?
Roger, the big picture.
The big picture, that's right. The big picture. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
That's so far ahead of where we are.
I know.
It's laughable.
It is.
It's like when you talk about when we manage this world so that we fit into in with other nations, other worlds.
Right.
What do you mean when we manage this world? We can't even manage our country.
Oh, we can't manage.
I can't think that far ahead.
We can't manage our city. We can't manage our states or our counties. You know, so we got corruption in all these things. So.
It hurts my head to think. It hurts my head to think that far ahead.
It does me too. You know, more than anything else, life on this planet saddens me more than anything else, and that's a bad place to be, I know. But it saddens me because when you learn the Urantia book and you learn the teachings of the Urantia book and you become a little more wise, you realize what we're missing out on. You know. And it saddens me to know that we could do so much better, and we have the potential to do so much better, and yet we still scratch along in the same muck we've always been in, you know?
That's true. It saddened Jesus too. He was on the mount looking down at the city, and he wept.
Yeah, that's the only
He
thing.
wept.
Yeah, because once you have a glimpse of the better life, you don't want to live the other life anymore.
If you know what it can be,
Yeah.
and you just despair that it isn't getting there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'd like to add something here.
Go right ahead, Ed.
You know, I think that we're still lacking a lot of evolution as a society because, you know, we're right now as a society we're only aware that we are the only ones here.
That's right.
And as a result, we do things like go to college and get a master's degree or become a lawyer or something. We put this label on ourselves and we think it entitles us. And so it's sort of like educational or societal / educational system. When we build ourselves up, we have this sense of power and being greater or better than others, when really it seems what they're saying here is the goal is to continuously learn, that you're the same person you were when you first started, except now you have more knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Exactly right. And it continues on in the mansion worlds too. You know, people think they're going to get in the mansion worlds and it's just going to be hunky-dory. I got news for you. You're going to be learning there too. It's a constant school, you know. And we're just starting out there. So we got a long way.
When I talk to people who aren't familiar with the Urantia book, I always ask them, you know, you can, if I say peach, you can imagine a peach. If I say tree, you can imagine a tree. And if I say eternity or forever, can you imagine that? Okay, you know you're going to die, you're going to go home and be with Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
What are you going to do forever?
Yeah.
You're going to be what? What do you, and there's no answer. There's absolutely no answer to that.
There's no.
But this book gives you an answer to that. I always wondered, I don't want to go sit on a cloud and play my auto harp, you know.
Sing
ain't gonna
hymns all
happen.
day. You're gonna sing hymns for eternity? That's all we're gonna do? Yeah.
This book answers so many of my questions
Yeah.
that growing up in the Baptist church and the Episcopal church did not answer. They just gave me more questions.
Yeah.
Just more questions.
Yeah.
Where is the land of Nod? What do
Yeah.
you mean you went off to the land of Nod? There's nobody there but Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah.
Nobody could tell me that. Oh, you just have to know. You just have to believe. No, not me. I've got to know. I can't just believe. I've got to know.
It kind of
That's what this book does. It gives
kind
me
of
some
reminds me
knowledge.
of a movie I saw once, or a little short movie where the guy says, you know, guy's trying to talk him into going to the right gate so he can go to heaven, and the guy says, "Was there any fishing in heaven?" And the guy says, "Well, I don't know." He says, "Well, if there's no fishing, I don't want to go." Anyway, okay. Well,
There's one gospel song that I used to sing that says, "Lord, would you build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land?"
There
And
you go.
he's going to go sit in this little cabin in the corner of Glory Land, somewhere near the tree of life, and hear forever singing. I love that gospel song. I don't believe it.
I think
I'm
you're
going
up.
to turn my speaker off now. I'm going to shut.
Rodney, I think you're up.
Education recently passed from the control of the clergy to that of lawyers and businessmen. Eventually, it must be given over to philosophy and to the scientists. Teachers must be free beings, real leaders, to the end that philosophy, the search for wisdom, may become the chief educational pursuit.
There you go. It's the most important.
Education is the business of learning. Education is the business of living. It must continue throughout a lifetime so that mankind may gradually experience the ascending levels of moral wisdom, which are 1. The knowledge of things. 2. The realization of meanings. 3. The appreciation of values. 4. The nobility of work, duty. 5. The motivation of goals, morality. 6. The love of service, character. 7. Cosmic insight, spiritual discernment.
It's just a growing process, isn't it, as we go through these things. And then by means of these achievements, many will ascend to the mortal ultimate of mind attainment, God consciousness. That's the way to God consciousness.
I should have this posted on my wall to read every day.
Really? Billy, I think you're back again.
The character of statehood. The only sacred feature of any human government is the division of statehood into the three domains of executive, legislative, and judicial function. The universe is administered in accordance with such a plan of segregation of functions and authority. Aside from this divine concept of effective social regulation or civil government, it matters little what form of state a people may elect to have, provided the citizenry is even progressive toward the goal of augmented self-control and increase in social service. The intellectual keenness, economic wisdom, social cleverness, and moral stamina of the people are all faithfully reflected in statehood.
There you go. It's interesting that the executive, legislative, and judicial functions, guess where we got that from?
Them. That's the way God runs the world.
That's the way God runs the world.
Everything.
It was from the Caligastra 100. That's who brought it here. They were organized in this manner. And then later on, Adam and Eve was organized in this manner. That's where we learned these concepts from. All right.
They will leave it.
All right. Alec, I think you're up next. Verse 6.
The evolution of statehood entails progress from level to level as follows. 1. The creation of a threefold government of executive, legislative, and judicial branches. 2. The freedom of social, political, and religious activities. 3. The abolition of all forms of slavery and human bondage. 4. The ability of the citizenry to control the levying of taxes. 5. The establishment of universal education, learning extended from the cradle to the grave. 6. The proper adjustment between local and national governments. 7. The fostering of science and the conquest of disease. 8. The due recognition of sex equality and the coordinated functioning of men and women in the home, school, and church, with specialized service of women in industry and government. 9. The elimination of toiling slavery by machine invention and the subsequent mastery of the machine age. 10. The conquest of dialects, the triumph of a universal language. 11. The ending of war, international adjudication of national and racial differences by continental courts of nations presided over by a supreme planetary tribunal automatically recruited from the periodically retiring heads of the continental courts. The continental courts are authoritative. The world court is advisory, moral. 12. That's the last one. The worldwide vogue of the pursuit of wisdom, the exaltation of philosophy, the evolution of a world religion, which will presage the entrance of the planet upon the earlier phases of settlement in light and life.
That's our future, right? That's our future. You know, it's interesting that he basically gives us a 12-step pathway to light and life here, really, if you think about it. And we see these things trying to crop up occasionally, like a world government and that sort of thing in a single dialect. People fight that like crazy because they don't want to see that happen. But doesn't this remind you of Star Trek? The confederations of planets and things like this, get together and try to run the worlds in such a way that it's all peaceful and it makes progress for everybody. And that's really, it's amazing that it's all put down in paper here, right? Rodney, you get the privilege of the last one.
Lord, these are the prerequisites of progressive government and the earmarks of ideal statehood. Branches oral from the realization of these exalted ideals. but the civilized races have made a beginning. Mankind is on the march toward a higher evolutionary destinies. This paper was sponsored by Melchizedek Medley.
So we have hope, don't we? You know, we're on the right track. It's just very slow. You know, anything worthwhile takes time. All right, let's say a little prayer and we'll quit for a minute. Father, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share this wonderful revelation with each other and learn by studying it. And we pray that you'll allow us to remember some of it, that we might share it with others and teach others this great concepts that you've put in this book for us to learn. We thank you for this group, and we thank you for those who study at home with us and watch the videos on their own. We thank you for everyone that comes to you through this book, and we give you the praise and the glory. In your Son's name, Jesus of Nazareth, Michael Medlon. Amen. And y'all at home, thank you for joining us. Please come see us again. You can stop the video. We'll have a couple of others.